On January 17th, 2020, we launched the Flipping Genius podcast. That was 187 episodes and hundreds of videos ago. And in those 5 years, 5.5 years, the world has changed, maybe more than any 5.5 years ever. It sure seems like it to me. When I think back at all that has changed in that time, it's really mind-boggling, literally. Um, in this episode 188, I'm going to share an entire new flip for me, one that I'm totally pumped about because, as I mentioned in 187, I've found ways to get this flip for almost no investment other than time. Uh, and before I break it down, though, I want to share a bit of how I got there, and that's why I'm talking about these 5.5 years. I mean, if you've listened for 187 episodes so far, and first off, thank you. And there are a few hundred of you who have done that. And to me, it is so cool. I'm thankful that all of you are here, even if this is your very first time ever. And as I've said about a zillion times on the podcast, probably not a zillion times, but lots and lots of times, my first goal of Flipping Genius has always been and always will be to help you, the listener, make more money. And I know that we have. I hear from you. We've had folks on the podcast that have talked about what they've done. We've got folks in the flipping forum who have shared what they've done, and I know it's exciting. And like always, we end every episode. I always say, let's work together. Let's make some money. Let's all become flipping geniuses. And this has happened. And it's continuing to happen for thousands of us who are here, who've been here, and who will be here in the future. And that is, like I said, it's really cool to me. And as you've listened, as I recorded my flipping life over these years, that life and certainly the business around it has continually evolved. I think back to deals that I found regularly on sources like eBay and Craigslist. Some of you some of you are probably not even familiar with Craigslist anymore, and it's still there, but I pretty much have found no use for it. And I guess in probably 10 years. And at one time, and I just bring this up as an example, at one time, Craigslist was the lifeblood of my car flipping and house flipping business and everybody's flipping business. And then it changed. It changed. And the thing that's what happens. Things change. As you as you've listened, um, over the past 5.5 years, I've talked about hundreds of cars that we've flipped since the inception of the podcast. But the way that I did it, uh, it kept changing and evolving. And a while back, I started to recognize that I needed to find a new way or new ways, better ways to flip, to earn. And that evolution is evolving faster now than it ever has been before. As I said, the world's changing faster, and we have to move with it. Like I said before, so many times on the football field, on the street, and on these episodes, you've got to keep your head on a swivel. And man, that is so true, more so than ever. Think about the changes that we see all around us that affect everything that we do, will do, and don't even know, don't stuff we don't even know it's going to happen yet. Technology is is just driving that train more so than ever. I mean, the thing that I am blown away by recently is AI and the advancements in AI, the rise of all these different AR formats or chat bots or image generation. I used one this morning for actually narration. Just amazing. It was about 4 o'clock this morning, and and I'm working on a book, and I found I had an ad. There was an advertisement for a new uh, AI system that I had not heard that was designed just to help me with narration, and it is just amazing how accurate it is and how well, it's I'm not even going to tell you the name of it. I'm not trying to hawk it or anything. It's amazing what's out there, um, and all the things that they can do. The the fact is that I hear a lot of my peers, my friends, my my relatives, and I suppose my competitors who are scared of artificial intelligence. In case you didn't know what AI stood for, I thought I'd throw that in. And I get it. I mean, I see why it's frightening. I see why you want to retain, your own place of importance in the process. But I also see that using AI can put me in a driver's seat, and not using AI, not using it well, uh, you ultimately, well, you have to use it. If you don't, you stumble in the middle of your sentence and have to get AI to jump in and fix it. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. Um, but seriously, you pretty much have to use it at this point in time. I don't care if you're checking out at the grocery store. You are using some form of artificial intelligence, and it's becoming more and more and more uh, part of every business. So so not just using it, but using it optimally will 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 put you in competition. And if you don't use it to the best of your ability, it's going to put you behind your competition because they're going to use it, and ultimately it's going to put you out of business. So I encourage you to find ways to make AI part of your efforts, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that today in this flip. We'll talk about it probably every flip because it's the realistic part of what we do now. Um, More and more every day. I mean, I'm 65 years old, and I'm finding new ways to use it daily, and I encourage you to do the same thing. Think of AI as part of your team. I think that's the best way to think of it, and recognize that everyone has access to it too. So just because you aren't using it, as an assistant, as a part of your marketing arm, as a research arm, as an enhancement to what you do, uh, you'll be getting further and further behind because your competitors and your peers are going to be using it for those same things. You have to use the tools that you have. You have to recognize this is a huge tool that we all have. And we'll talk about how beneficial it is in every flip going forward and everything we do going forward. Other technology that is it just blows me away that we've seen these changes, and looking where we're at now, where we were, maybe it will help us uh, predict where we'll be in the future, or at least stay ahead of it, or stay at the front of it, because that's something as I'm looking back on my flips this year, I recognize that I got behind. I got behind on this stuff, and it cost me a lot of money. It cost me opportunities. Had I stayed at the forefront of the change, of the technological changes, had I kept my eyes open to what was changing around me better, if I kept my head on a swivel like I'm telling you to do, um, I would have been in a better position to be at the forefront of those changes. And that's not something I want to happen again. I don't care if I'm 74 years old. If I'm still doing this, I want to do it as well as I possibly can. I shouldn't say 74 because we got a lot of people around us that proves 74 is nothing anymore. But our president is 79, I think, and he works like 20 hours a day. It's just there's no excuses, and technology can help you maximize your efficiency, your effectiveness, and your lifestyle. Um, Getting back to technology, what we're doing right now, I don't know if you know, but I use Zoom to record this. I could use Teams. I could use several other tools. Um, we upload it using all kind of different technology. I won't go into every single one of them because again, I'm not trying to sell you on these things. But this explosion of technology that allows us to communicate, whether it be through a podcast or through Zoom meetings, um, or through something I'm just learning about right now, Slack, or other collaboration platforms that allow you to communicate with other people in your business or in other businesses. It's fascinating. And this stuff is completely revolutionized how people work and interact. And for me personally, I have a meeting with guys from I think 8 different states every Friday morning at 5:30 in the morning. We've got guys from Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Michigan, and Kansas, I think. And we all get together each week for an hour and a half, 5:30 in the morning. And some of those guys I have never met one on one, face to face. I've just other through than through the computer screen. And those same guys are some of my best friends, some of my closest allies. And it's because of this technology. I just find that amazing because it's something that has evolved for me in these last 5 or 6 years. It's fascinating. That came out of COVID and put us where we're at now, but it's going forward. I don't see any reason why we won't continue to use that and develop it. Um, Despite that we're in a different climate right now, but it's fascinating to me. I mean, another situation like this, some folks that are very close to me recently traveled literally around the world. They were in 4 or 5 different continents, in over a dozen different countries, in a period of about 5.5 months. And all the time they were in contact with myself and other people who cared about them while they were exploring. I don't know if you hear that. The weather's getting bad here. Um, and they could have live communication with us from in Asia or Europe or Africa while they were traveling. We talked to them constantly, sometimes face to face. Sometimes they just sent information to us, like emails and stuff, which is no big deal. But the methods that are out there for communicating are just amazing. There's some same folks are out west right now, and I wouldn't doubt that we'll hear from them, watch them live as they're trucking around out there. Think about that tool, these tools like this that allow us to literally do business all over the planet. And going back to our flipping business, this is something that I'm seeing as an opportunity. We'll probably get into this not today, but down the road as we talk more about car flipping and probably other flipping too. But I know a lot of you folks are here to talk about car flipping. We'll talk about flipping cars and how we can do that several states removed better now than we could ever before. Um, and the opportunities because of technology just blow me away. Another example, we were in Kentucky for a football game, watching my nephews play football up at the University of Kentucky. And afterwards, we had the opportunity to spend the night with some friends who live in Kentucky, and they're actually friends of my son. So I didn't know the folks, some really, really wonderful folks who live up in rural central Kentucky, just a beautiful part of the country, uh, beautiful surroundings, inexpensive housing, just a wonderful rural lifestyle that I really, really liked. And I asked them what they did for a living, and they what they do for a living doesn't really matter, but how they do it is they do it from their house, and they work in a big city that they almost never go to, that would cost a lot more money to live in, and they get to live where they want to live and work where they want to work and make the money that they would make if they lived in the big city, and they don't have to deal with They don't have to deal with the commute. They don't have to deal with the expense. They don't have to deal with the possible crime. Um, it's just amazing. I mean, I how cool is that? I would I think it's amazing what we're seeing. But my point is that technology and the acceptance of it socially is is really revolutionizing how we can do business and well how we are doing business or how you should be doing business. So keeping that in mind, it's important that we keep our eyes open, keep our head on that swivel, and look for opportunities. And that's what we're going to talk about today. An opportunity that I saw and am taking advantage of that you can do too, that doesn't take you away from whatever your business is right now, but will enhance it, I believe. So when we come back, we talk about that one. Free. I've talked about free cars in the past a couple times. Um, but it is almost non-existent to get a car for free. Uh, there are some ways, but if it does happen, those vehicles usually they're usually not priced, worth the price of towing. I know there's been at least one episode that we talked about a free car, and it was a great story. But that happens very seldom. Doubling your investment, that's something we've talked about a lot. And back when I kicked off Flipping Genius, doubling my investment, or even better, was fairly common. I've always dealt in lower priced used passenger vehicles, and that's the same as it is, now as it was then. But um, back 5 or 6 years ago, at least here in the southern United States, and pretty much all across the United States, I could buy a running vehicle that either needed some cosmetic improvements or some relatively minor mechanical repairs for under $1,000, and I could usually uh, get them sellable for another $600 or $700, uh, and then turn and flip them for about double, 2,500 to $3,500 was typical. Sometimes more, and most of the time, doubling or nearly doubling my cash investments. I might have had a little time invested in them as well, but since I hire most of my mechanical and cosmetic work out, my time investment was minimal. And that's why I used to be able to that's why I used to be able to film all those promotional videos about Flipping Genius from the golf course. Um, it was very, very sweet uh, deal. It's why we started Flipping Genius. It's why you hear at the very beginning of Flipping Genius that it's a lot like flipping houses, except for it can be done for a lot less money, and usually the return is even better. And that has always been my truth until some changes started to happen. And that's what we're talking about now, being ready for those changes. So I'm getting around to telling you about this new deal, but I'm just telling you that's why I'm looking for other opportunities. And since those deals pretty much disappeared, at least in my neck of the woods, the last few years, I've been looking for other deals. Naturally, I've looked at a lot of places, higher priced vehicles. My brother, the banker, who's one of the smartest guys I know, said, "Hey, let's take a look at. Can you do the same thing you've been doing? Just invest more money, and then every time you flip, you'll get more money out." We took a look at it. I didn't see a way to do it without. I didn't see a way to do it. The risk was too high. The margins were too low. Land, houses, sporting events tickets, musical instruments, tools. It's just lots of things, and eventually we'll probably talk about some of those things too, because I have made money on flips in some of those areas. But the one I want to talk to you about today is this one. Um, I'm going to go ahead. If you're watching, I'm going to try to go ahead and show this to you. Uh, so, and you're listening, I'll describe it. So, if you're watching the video, you're going to see some still pictures. I'm going to try to get a little bit better at the video part, but I got to get better at the audio part too, so you understand what you're looking at. So, a lot of you know that I walk someplace between 5 and 7 miles just about every day of the week for exercise, and I've always kept my head on the swivel, like we've talked about, looking for vehicles. We've talked about that a lot, and also look for real estate. And I've talked about that some because it's those things have paid off and continue to, and I continue to do that. But this particular day, I was walking and I saw something that alerted myself to a flip, a potential flip that I had literally just learned about the night before while I was watching YouTube with my lovely bride, and it was about furniture. And I watched a couple videos by a young lady who was flipping furniture, and it looked like, hey, there's something I could do because she literally was refinishing existing furniture in a way that made it more appealing and more modern. And then she was flipping it, selling it, just like we do cars, or I have done cars. And so I'm walking along the road, and if you're watching the video, this is what I found. A very, very high quality piece of furniture that we, I right away thought, I've got to take that home, but obviously I can't take that home while I'm walking. And I still had about 4 more miles to walk that day, I believe, 3 or 4 more miles to walk. So I got back to my vehicle. I drove home and I swapped vehicles, went back out with my truck. I got back there. I wished I would have taken some pictures of that. It was about ready to rain, and I picked this. I think you would call it an armoire. I believe is the correct term. I'm not, I'm not an expert, but this will be perfect because just like with cars, I'm not an expert on this, but we're going to talk about it. You don't have to be an expert. You just have to be moving and making it happen. So, gentleman was riding by, believe it or not, on a unicycle. I can't make this stuff up. And he said, "Would you like a hand with that?" Because the piece of furniture was very heavy, and a lot of you probably heard me talk about my right shoulder is not almost non-functional above a certain point. I had scooted it over in the middle of the road to try to slide it into the back of the truck, but I could tell that this thing weighed oh, probably 150 pounds at least. And so he said, "Hey, you need a hand?" And I said, "Yeah, I could use a hand." But he kept driving by on his unicycle. When he came back after he turned around the cul-de-sac, I said, "I don't think you understood me." I said, "Yeah, I could use a hand." So he jumped off his unicycle. We loaded that baby in the back of my Ford F-150 that's got the long bed in it. And he said he better get that home before it rains. And I did, and I put a tarp on it when I got home, and I got this thing for free. So free, like a free car, but this was free. These things will happen much more often than a car, but this one happened to be a pretty damn good one. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what I did with it and what I made from it. And we're going to talk about not only free, but we're also going to talk about, well, not doubling. I'll have to do the calculation on this one, but it's way, way, way more than doubling. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to take a little break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about what I did. And if you're watching the video, you'll be able to see what we did. If you're not watching the video, I'm going to try to describe it to you. But I think mostly what you're going to care most about is the money anyway. But hey, remember, we're on YouTube too. So if you're listening to the video, you can always go back and watch our YouTube. I also post some pictures on our website, flippingenius.com, FLIPPINGENIUS.com. First thing we want to start off with is uh, is you got to assess and evaluate in this case, a piece of furniture we're working with. And it's pretty much the same thing as a car. We've talked about it. You're usually either going to an auction or you're going to buy a vehicle from an individual. You walk around the vehicle, you're gonna listen to it, you're gonna have a lot more complications. That's one thing for sure. In this instance, I swear my evaluation took place at the curb before I even took possession of this free product. But same kind of thing. I walked around it, checked it out, made sure it was solid, looked for any rotten parts. There wasn't anything. I got lucky, but I think you can get lucky fairly often doing this. So looked it over, made sure that the doors worked and the hinges hinged, and there was nothing wrong with it. There was a couple minor scratches, but nothing to worry about. There was a rear door panel or rear panel that needed to be replaced. They had used it as some sort of a TV stand with an older TV that with a tube stuck through, so that just needed to be removed and replaced. It's just plywood, and it's not visible and not a visible part. Um, does it the furniture goes up against the wall, so not of any substance. Um, there was a couple pieces of hardware missing, but that didn't matter either because I wanted to replace them because they were a little out of date. Um, and that's the whole idea, the idea to upgrade it, to improve it, make it look more modern. Um, and it's fascinating, and I again, just like with cars, I learned so much, uh, probably from you guys and from other guys that I met at auctions. In this case, just taking a look at YouTube, I found some great information. Like I said, the night before I found this, so I was already kind of up to speed as far as what I was looking for. So then let's just walk through it. I don't want to get into crazy detail on this any more than I have before in car flips, but since it's new to all of us, let's just walk through so you can see how simple this is. First thing you do is remove the hardware, the handles, the knobs, the hinges. You take the doors off of it if there's doors. You take the drawers out if there's drawers, and then you clean it up. You're going to use uh, Murphy soap, a couple other things. You're gonna clean it up depending on how dirty it is. And this one really wasn't dirty. I had one sticker to remove from the front of it. I think you saw that in the picture. And then in this case, I wanted to paint it. Not I didn't want to re finish the entire thing. Frankly, because it's easier, and secondly, because I that's a look that I really was good at going for. So use a degloss to you're trying to take the shine off of the finish so you can paint, and you use a deglosser. All this stuff. Well, I'll get into the cost for all the materials, um, and then just use some light sanding just to get the surface ready for paint, and then uh, you got to replace that back panel with plywood and make sure you've got that sealed up so that it looks good from the back in case it's turned around, but that is a reverse of a piece of furniture that's not likely to be standing in the middle of the room, but still it was easy to replace. Uh, all the scratches were superficial, so they came out with sanding. Um, Next step is to prime it and then lightly sand it again. The next step is to paint it. We use foam rollers or brushes. I think in the future I'll get a spray gun, but with this there wasn't enough changes in the structure, enough gingerbread and stuff like that. It made it real difficult to paint. But I do believe a cleaner job could be done with a paint gun once you know how to do it. But just foam rollers work great, like they did way back when we did the poor man's paint job on a Toyota. If you haven't seen that one, that's one of my favorite episodes, Flipping Genius. Back like episode 30, 40, something like that. That was fun. Just another spin on that. I don't know if I did as well on this as I did on that, but pretty close as far as the return on investment. We might have done better here, but we'll get into that in a minute. You're going to paint first the body of the in this case I wanted it to be a two-tone just because I'm trying to make it pop. You'll see the pictures later. Um, First the body, I'm calling it the body, the main structure, and then the accents because I'm using a second paint color, and then a polyurethane top coat is to protect it. And after that, replace your hardware, replace the handles and the knobs. Make sure at the outset, make sure that uh, you take pictures of them. This just a little tip. Take pictures of them so you know where your handles and knobs were because you're probably going to cover that up with your sanding and your paint. So you don't want to know where they're at so you can replace them if they. I got ones that went right in the same spots. So no, that was easy. But anyway, that there can be complications on that. I can see that. But this was a lucky one. And then after you replace your doors and your drawers, you buff it up with a soft cloth, and you're pretty much ready to go. You're gonna it's just like with a car now. Let's say, the next thing is to photo it and market it, and just like with a car, I've talked about yeah, and maybe I need to talk about this more because I notice a lot of people do not know how to take pictures of a car, and I've talked about it before that I tell people I ought to be a wedding photographer because I take pictures of these old vehicles and make them look so good, and I'm not trying to mislead. I'm just trying to make it look in the best light. The same exact thing. You probably even saw in the photos I showed already of the piece when I found it at the curb. I take side angles because it just makes it look better. Same thing here, same exact thing. Um, and another thing that I like to do uh, with vehicles is to take him in a good backdrop. I've done that as I've gone as far as just drive over and park in front of a church. But something going back to the AI, it's crazy. Uh, so much of the steps that I'm talking about here, by the way, and all before I went to work on this, I went to ChatGPT and just asked for materials, and man, I mean, it gave me I had like a really kind of an instruction sheet in front of me on how to literally how to flip this piece of furniture that was probably about 10 pages long, including, the materials I needed to buy. I was armed and ready right out of the chute because of ChatGPT. That's the one I use the most, but use other ones too. And and so getting back to what I was just talking about as far as taking pictures, uh, yeah, it's a good idea to build a background. And I did that, but then I just used a artificial background generator. It wasn't ChatGPT, it was a different one. And it generated a background that I liked better. So wound up using that for the photos and then as far as marketing, look at a lot of different places you can go to. But the ones that I saw, and I didn't use Craigslist, but Craigslist may be one that you could use for this. Facebook and Nextdoor looked like the best because you've got a fairly large piece of furniture. You're not wanting to ship it any place, so you want somebody who's nearby. we don't have a local newspaper with classifieds, and that's where Craigslist could be good. But Facebook and Nextdoor were the main ones. But the crazy thing is, met a lady at Lowe's when I was shopping for supplies, and that's who wound up buying the armoire. So I would just showed a picture of what we had, and it was like it was kind of crazy that, but sometimes that happens. And so we started off asking $800 for it. Um, she offered six. We sold it for 675, and the total time involved. I'm trying to put all this up on the screen. 4 hours. Total investment. Hardware $18, $53 for cleaning materials, uh, sandpaper, brushes, rollers. The wood I had on hand already, so I figure about $5. A The original cost of the piece was zero, so you got a total of $76, and that gives us a net profit of $599. I mean, there's been cars in the last few years, a lot of cars where we weren't making that much off the car. Usually I did, but my cost had gone way up. So yeah, I'd like to see this. And I know we could see even a higher margin or a higher price, but for the first one out of the chute, it's pretty cool. And especially since you grabbed it for free. So yeah, this has got me excited. It's got me looking at different adventures out here in the flipping world, and we're going to talk about more of them going forward. But this is what I wanted to share with you today. And I've I'm going to poke some pictures on here for you to take a look at before we close out. But it's exciting stuff, and let's talk about going forward, what else we have along these lines. And if you've got something to share, kick it back. If you got questions, send them back to me, flippingquestions@gmail.com, and be happy to get to you. I'm trying to not make this one go too long, but I think this gives you a good starting place for what we can do out here. And I've got other other projects working that are going to be fun too. Uh, I think more coming in the furniture thing, but also in musical instruments. That's a new one. We'll talk about that pretty soon too. But also going back to cars too. So hey, let's work together. Let's make some money. Let's all become flipping geniuses.